super easy method on how you can read through an entire policy in a matter of minutes. It's called the DICE method. And let's get into it right now in 3, 2, 1. What's up, advocates? Welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Claims Show. I am your host, Vince Perri, owner and CEO of Elite Resolutions, a public adjusting firm providing all kinds of services to public adjusters, homeowners, commercial building owners, large losses, small losses, all kinds of stuff, but that's not what I'm here for to talk about. I am the Commercial Claims Advocate, owner of Commercial Claims Advocate and the Commercial Claims Show, and all kinds of educational sources for you. Let's go! Additional living expenses is one of the most difficult parts of an insurance claim, and the reason is it's very high pressure, and as a public adjuster or contractor, you're already dealing with the negotiating of the build-back process. You don't want to have to deal with ALE as well. Black Diamond Housing Services does all of that. They don't even charge the client. They bill it directly to the insurance company. It's all covered under the ALE coverage. So you need to call Black Diamond if you have a house that has been severely lost, whether it's like severe mold, severe water, fire, or anything like that, where they need a place to stay. Call Black Diamond Housing Services and they'll be able to take care of your client from beginning to end. I had been looking for an accountant for years and I was unable to find anybody that I liked, that I worked with, and was able to do what I needed to be done to my taxes and to my accountant. Jeremy David at Noble Wealth has been a godsend to me, my family, and my company. We have saved so much money in taxes I can't even begin to describe, and he knows what he's doing. You need to call Jeremy at Noble Wealth and get yourself the right accountant because he's the man who's going to help you save on taxes, because ultimately you don't want to be making money, especially if you're self-employed, and having it all go to the IRS. Call Jeremy, call Noble Wealth, and they will help you tremendously with the entire accounting process and your tax situation from A to Z. Everybody needs an attorney on their side. So whether you're a public adjuster or contractor or anyone else in the insurance claims business, make sure that you have an attorney that you could rely on, that you can go to for questions whenever you need it. That guy for me for the last 12 years has been David Farber. David Farber is the owner of the Farber Law Firm, and he has been there for me from the beginning of my career until now. And I would love for him to be able to help you as well. So make sure you call him at this number here and visit his website so you can learn more about the amazing David Farber of the Farber Law Firm. I hate doing that whole intro sometimes. It's too much. I usually wait until the end, but then sometimes I get carried away. The DICE method. The DICE method is actually something that I learned a few years back. I'm going to give him a shout out. It was with Skipton. Skipton and Associates. They are a public adjusting firm. David Skipton is the owner. And honestly, I learned this at his course, and I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know where he learned it, if he came up with it himself. I don't think he did, because I remember seeing the DICE method somewhere else. So it's a pretty common thing, but that's why I learned it. I like to give credit where credit is due. And basically the DICE method is DICE. So George, let's put it right here. Or no, let's put it right here. DICE. Declarations, insuring agreement, conditions, and exclusions. The point is that if you can get through the entire policy and just go ahead and look through declarations, insuring agreement, conditions, and exclusions, you're going to have a good idea of whether this loss is covered or not. You're going to have a good idea of whether you have good coverage or bad coverage. This is a great video for homeowners and anybody. It's just simple to go DICE method, like a rolling of a dice, which is kind of how it feels sometimes every time you submit a claim. No offense, insurance companies. So let's get into declarations, right? So we have DICE. Let's go declarations. Declarations, as you see here, let's see if we can put that up. Declaration is just going to be your first page of the insurance policy. It is by far the most important page, okay? The declarations page is going to show basically everything that you need to know in the insurance policy, okay? It's going to show you all of your policy limits. It's going to show, well, let's start at the top. Declaration is going to have the policy number. It's going to have the policy period, okay? Those two are very important. You need the policy number in order to submit the claim, and you want to make sure that the claim you're filing and the policy that you're looking at is within the actual time of the insurance policy period. So very, very important. Normally, a lot of times you'll even have the claim hotline and the number to call for the insurance company. You're going to have the address, okay? Now make sure you understand that most declarations pages have a named insured address and then the insured location. And sometimes they can be two different locations. So make sure that when you are filing the claim that the insured location, that's the one, matches the actual home that you are having the claim on. Okay? Because sometimes the named insured lives in a different place than where the actual insured property is. The other and very important is the agent's name. You never know as a public adjuster or even as a homeowner when you're going to need to contact your agent. And you may not have that phone number. You may not be able to find it. But guess where you could find it? All on the declarations page every single time. Okay. The next thing you're going to see is just some stuff about your policy. You're going to probably see a form. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, whether it's an HO3 or not. But the most important is the coverages. Coverages section is most important. Let's go through this because this is my favorite thing. You have coverage A, coverage B, coverage C, coverage D. Those are the four most important. Coverage A is your dwelling. Take your home, turn it upside down. Everything that falls out, okay, everything that sticks, that stays on, which is, the four walls, but also your cabinets, your kitchen cabinets, your tile floor, your baseboards, your paint, your drywall, all that stuff that sticks, that is your coverage A, okay? Everything that falls out is your contents. That's coverage C. And then everything that is on your property, but not attached to that dwelling that I just turned upside down, those are your other structures. And then, of course, everybody knows what coverage D is. That's your additional living expenses, your loss of use, where if you need to move out and you have to go to a place. So, it's very important that you understand all these coverages because I would say about 50% of the time, or maybe even 60% of the time, or maybe even more, you're going to be tapping into more than one. A lot of people file claims just for the dwelling. But more than half of the times, you might have to tap into other structures. You might have to tap into personal property. And you might have to tap into loss of use. Shout out to Black Diamond, who takes care of all of our Elite Resolutions clients when it comes to having to move out to another place. Now, in-house, we like to take care of contents. We put together the content sheet and personal property so that we can get our clients the money that they need. Other structures usually is sort of involved with the build back, but it needs to be included if it was damaged. So that's why it's very important to hire a claims expert, hire a policy expert, hire a public adjuster, because we understand that all these things may have to be included. And more than half of the times, more than one of these has to be claimed, has to be sort of included. So keep an eye out for that. If you have personal property damage or other structures, or if you need to move out, just because it's not a total loss doesn't mean you don't have to move out. If you have some mold damage or something like that and you're asthmatic or whatever it is, you may need to move out. And that's where your loss of use and your additional living expenses come in. And that's pretty much it with the deck page. Some other stuff in there that I don't want to get through. It's not too important. Sometimes on the deck page on page 2, there might be the checklist and stuff like that. What's covered, what's not covered, but that's pretty much it. The next thing is the insuring agreement. I'm just going to read one insuring agreement. The agreement is, we will provide the insurance described in this policy in return for the premium and compliance with all applicable provisions of this policy. Basically, it is the insuring agreement. It is the agreement between the insurance company and the homeowner that basically says that we will provide payment, we will provide coverage for any of these things. It's a summary of the major promises of the insurance company, and it states what's covered. This is where all the coverages come into place now, right? All the coverages right after the insuring agreement, you're going to see all the coverages under your insurance policy. Go through this really quick so you can have a good understanding of what's covered, okay? Like I said, in an open peril policy, everything is covered, but you want to take a look at the coverages in your insurance policy. You want to know the difference between a named peril policy and an all-risk policy, okay? That's an open peril policy, basic. There's different ones. You want to make sure you have an idea of what's covered. The next thing is your conditions. It's my favorite part of the policy. Conditions is where we have the famous what we call the duties after the loss. Okay, I need you to go to that page right now. Usually it's around page 30s. Late 20s or 30s, you're going to get to the conditions section of the policy, okay? These are basically the conditions that you have to sort of abide by, okay? And a lot of different things in regards to filing a lawsuit, in regards to a policy period, other insurances, any kind of fraud, but most importantly, your duties after loss, okay? This right here is very, very important. In the conditions section, go to the duties after the loss and take a look at those 7 or so things that you have to abide by. You have to give prompt notice to the insurance company. You have to do any repairs necessary. You have to mitigate any damages. You have to allow the insurance company to inspect. And most important, you have to provide a proof of loss within a certain period of time after it's requested. Normally, it's after it's requested, but you have to look at it because sometimes it's after the date of loss. So, proof of loss, very important. There's a time limit there. You got to make sure you do it. What is a proof of loss? It's basically... it's like a copy of your estimate. It's the total amount that you are claiming, and you have to have that document signed, sometimes notarized, to provide to the insurance company so the insurance company is aware of what it is that you are claiming. So the condition section is where you're going to find your duties after the loss. Very good if you're a public adjuster to go over this with the insured and let them know what your role is. Because our role as a public adjuster really is to make sure that each of those duties are checked off throughout that insurance claims process. Very, very important. So that's your conditions section. And then the last, and really one of the most important, is your exclusions. Okay? Even if you have an HO3, open peril policy, an open peril policy means everything is open for coverage. Everything under the sun is covered unless it's excluded. Well, if you have a water damage claim and water damage is excluded specifically in the exclusion section, exclusions are basically endorsements to your policy that is added on. If it is not added on, then it doesn't exist. So they will add this on. Sometimes there is a ACV for the roof endorsement exclusion, water damage endorsement exclusion, water damage limit endorsement exclusion. It can get pretty nasty. There's some ones that just you walk in and you're just like, you got nothing here. We can't file this claim for you. So that's why it's very, very important when you are looking over a policy, before you submit a claim, make sure you go ahead and take a look at those exclusions. Some common exclusions, just read off our earth movement, power failure, neglect, war, nuclear hazard. The most common exclusions are going to be like your just any kind of existing damage, wear and tear, like I said, neglect and stuff like that. But yeah, war, nuclear hazard, intentional loss, of course, existing damage, fungi, criminal illegal activity. Those are your common ones, but you really want to look at the endorsement section, which is after the entire policy. It's your endorsements, and it's also added exclusions. Make sure you take a look at those. Those aren't inside your policy. They are added on after. And that's it, guys. DICE. Shoo. Declarations, insuring agreement, conditions, and exclusions. That's the easiest way that you could really just sift through a policy to take a look at what's covered, what's not covered, and really give a good explanation to your client. Or if you are a policyholder, have a good explanation, have a good understanding of what your insurance policy actually includes. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Whew! My name is Vince Perri, commercial claims advocate, owner of Elite Resolutions. Go to eliteresolutions.com if you want to take a look at what our public adjusting firm is all about and some of the services that we include. And if you want to come on board, please shoot me a text, shoot me an email. Also, commercial claims advocate, if you're looking to learn more about our events, about our courses, and about everything that we're doing. Oh, and about these cool shirts. Go on commercialclaimsadvocate.com. You can find out more information there. Thank you very much. Hope you subscribe to this channel. Take a look at it, subscribe. There's so much more coming. There's so much already here. And yeah, knock yourself out. Guys, have a good week. See you later. Thank you very much. Goodbye.